Welcome, everyone, to our webinar today on Ignite Early Season Establishment of Cereal Crops with LALRISE Start SC. So now I will turn it to Scott to start the presentation.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our session today. We really appreciate all of you making the time to be with us. I'm Scott Gray, and I work as the National Sales Director for our Canadian business. And today we're very excited to introduce some new innovation to help you or your customers ignite early season establishment of your cereal crops. In case you're not all familiar with us as a company, we wanted to start with a quick introduction here. We're a privately held Canadian company established over 100 years ago, completely focused on the research, development, and commercialization of microbial technologies. So when you think of things like yeast, bacteria, fungi, and their derivatives, that's what we focus on and have done for a very long time, and certainly consider ourselves basic experts, in this space. We operate 12 different business units, touching a lot of different industries, and my colleagues and I, who are in the meeting here today presenting, are all part of the plant care business unit, which is primarily focused on the agriculture and forestry industries. So this screen here, when it opens up for you here, this is a snapshot of our focus segments, priorities, and areas of investment within our global plant care business. So basically technologies to help you grow, enhance, and protect your crops. Today, we're going to introduce a new biofertilizer technology from the LALRISE range called LALRISE Start SC. And you're going to hear all about this technology. It's an excellent new technology for cereal crops, along with a few other crops such as the various pulses, soybeans, and corn as well. But at this point, I'll turn it over to Nicola Waters to introduce himself and carry on with the presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. And hi, folks. So, as Scott said, my name is Nick. I'm a tech support agronomist for Lallemand Plant Care. As you may see through my accent, I'm based out of Quebec. My apologies for that. There's nothing much I can do to hide it. With that said, I'm really excited to talk about that technology. As an agronomist, I will get you into the more like the technical side of it. And please feel free to shoot any question you may have on the Q&A. So let's move forward. Now, what the active ingredient of that start technology is a bacteria. So that's something already to take into account. So we talk about something that will develop quickly in the field, develop a relationship with the plant. And it's also coming from a screening we call in science that was done with a university in Europe called Kent. And they've looked at different strains of microbes, including bacteria, fungi, and they had close to 2,000 different microbes in that screening. And they found that the Bacillus velizensis, so the active ingredient in the STAR technology, is actually one of the most promising microbes to work with in terms of plant growth regulation. And I'll get in details in a second, but some of the key elements that drive the excitement towards that bacteria was the fact that first, it's really strong. So we know that we can provide it, we can bring it in the field alive, which is super important. It's highly effective in different aspects. It's not necessarily the champion at one thing, but it's one of the only microbes that can do it all. And we'll get into what we mean by that. It's also well characterized, meaning that we are able to produce it large scale and be sure that there's no mutation or no epigenetic transformation in the process on producing it and delivering it into the product. And finally, we have so far really consistent results in terms of where we use it in terms of crop or geography, whether it was used in Europe, now in Canada. So we are really excited because we think that consistency, it's really one of the key aspect of that technology. But again, moving forward, you'll see more in details what we are talking about and why we have that excitement. So first thing, what is the technology doing? So again, that STAR technology will do three things. First one is the ability to colonize the roots. So that looks super simple and easy, but Bacillus, so the START, is really effective at finding the root exudate, developing on those roots, and living with the roots as the roots develop. And that will provide some key benefit that we'll talk about in a minute. Number two, the mode of action is the ability to enhance the root biomass. Now, I know some of you may think, yeah, but Nick, we don't harvest the roots. And you're 100% right. But the roots provide us a plant that will be more resilient and will optimize or will allow us to have a better uptake of the nutrient that we already pay for. So that's a key benefit also, and something we'll discuss in a minute. And lastly, but not least, the ability to actively make phosphorus, for instance, but also no other nutrient more available for the plant. And we'll chat about that in a minute. So the three things to keep in mind: colonizing the roots, providing better root system, so more root biomass, and unlocking nutrient. Now, on the colonization of the roots, not only it find the root exudate and develop there, but it will produce what we call a biofilm. So what is that? It's layer of the bacteria that form colonies, as you can see there on those pictures. And those colonies will actually protect the root system, forming like a physical barrier or armor, if you want, that could protect the root system from any abiotic stress that we could have during the season. Stresses like pH change, salinity, osmotic stress, also even like herbicide carryover and drought. Those are things that the bacteria to some extent could help protect the root system and help us having a plant that will be more resilient. So that's another benefit of that biofilm information moving forward. Now, one of the things that got me super excited about that technology is the potential to unlock phosphorus. Now, some of you may have heard about other technology out there that have that kind of claim, which is super exciting from my point of view, but I think our product is one of the best. And let me try to explain you why. The first thing is that some technology today are able to break the link or the bound between calcium and phosphate in the soil, especially on high pH, which is something that the bacillus or the star technology can do. And even like the biofilm will even add it's even more effective at doing that. So that's what you can see on the mineral phosphate there. But that's not even all. On lower pH, the star technology is able to tap into the bound with iron, which is one of the main elements that will actually trap phosphorus on low pH. And you can see there's a quick animation showing the impact of the bacillus developing and the impact it will have on the pH. Now, that will not change the pH of the soil. That will change the pH on the biofilm of the root system, meaning no, the soil won't change pH, but close to the root system, it will change so that the plant will be able to uptake that phos. But again, that's not even all. The star technology is able to also break down organic phosphate. Now, that's not something we chat a lot about in agriculture today, even though we know that organic matter is also containing sometimes even a lot of phosphate. In fact, we know that it could be from up to 90% of the total phosphorus, sometimes that could be on the organic form, in a form that we call phytate. And that could be broke down by the star technology through an enzyme called phytase, basically. And that's what we call mineralization of organic phosphate. And that will not only be released and kept also, again, in the biofilm, meaning the star technology is one of the only technology today that could do it all when it comes to phosphate and with one single microbe. So it's predictable. We know it will be there. It will thrive and live and provide those services in the field. Moving forward. Now you may wonder, yeah, but why do we talk about phosphate? I mean, we just need to apply MAP, right? Like that's as easy as it is. And true, we still recommend to apply the same level of phosphate. Phosphorus is super important. That's the top two nutrient, like we say NP and K for a reason. So phosphate is super important. The problem with phosphate, though, is that even though it's possible to solubilize it in water, we apply it on the soil, and in the soil, here's what's happening. It will quickly be tied up. Could be tied up with iron, calcium on a high pH. Could be used also by the other microbes and what's not. But the end result is that the plant today have access to only the phosphorus that is close enough to the root system and in the good form, which will look a bit like, if we move forward a little bit, we have allow me to simplify it a little bit, but if it will look like that triangle, basically. So you have two forms of phosphorus in the soil, the blue and the red one. The blue one being the mineral form. Most of it being stuck, again, with calcium, iron, aluminum. And then you have the organic phosphate, again, a big pool. We said 50-50 here on that triangle. Sometimes it's more or less, but the big take home is that we have a lot of phosphorus in the soil. It's just not available at all. Then you have the labeled phosphorus, mostly mineral that was unleashed or will be unleashed by some microbes during the plant growth. That will be your soil analysis. But the reality is that if you go outside, not during the winter, but during one day in the crop season, the plant only have access to the tiny bit, of the iceberg, and that's the reachable labeled phosphorus, and that's usually less than 1 ppm. So what our technology would do, if we move forward, by using the STAR technology, what will happen is that you will unleash the phosphate that will change form and be trapped in that biofilm so that the plant uptake will be easier even. So that at any point of the development, whether it's early on or later on, the plant will always have sufficient phosphate to tap into. And that will lead to some great results and some of the stuff we'll discuss in a minute. Moving forward. Now, that's not even all. There's also another element that could give us some great benefit, and you'll see the video when I'm speaking. But the starting effect is also related to another aspect of the technology that we have not chat about, and is the production of phytohormone, so plant growth regulators. As you can see there, we use the product as a seed treatment there. That will enhance the production or the germination process, and that will lead to some visual aspect. That could even means that your growers will call you and say, what did you use in my field? Because it's showing. Now, some of you may be thinking, yeah, but that's easy. That's in control environment. True, we'll get into the field soon. But that starting effect is even related to just the synergy between the bacteria and the seed, and that's already providing some benefit. Moving forward. Now on the phosphorus piece and to on the root system aspect, we've looked at in the growth chamber on wheat, if we grow the plant until tillering, what kind of aspect do we have on plant nutrient? And what you can see there on phosphorus, of course, we have 40% better uptake from the plant. So again, we look at the plant content on phos, and it was way better on the plant that were treated with Start SC. But part of the surprise, though, and to the point where we don't harvest the roots, but the roots could help us gaining what we want to harvest. Our surprise, what the nitrogen uptake was 15% better. The sulfur, potassium, magnesium, even the microbes like boron, copper, zinc, iron, and all of those, all those parameters were affected by the use of the STAR technology. We believe it's mostly related to the plant, like the root development, the root biomass effect. But that's something, again, it's control environment, but getting in the field, you'll see those results continue to get even more excited moving forward. That will be my last slide, and on that, I'll lead you to Chris. One thing I would say is that you can see we saw those results that we see in the lab also happening in the field. Chris, my friend, the floor is yours.
Hi, Chris Emlich here. I cover North Saskatchewan. So just going to go through a few of the field trials that we looked at. As you can see here on this slide, this was actually back in 2022. So if you remember that spring, it was cold and dry. So what you can see that was happening here across these trials was the untreated is very, well, lime green, very stagnant. And the crop had just kind of sat there after it came out of the ground, where you can see on the right side where the LALRISE Start SC treated had came out more evenly. We found it was kind of that half a leaf to a little bit more head versus untreated, as well as much more uniform in terms of both above ground and below ground plant material there. As we roll into the next trial here, this was one. Next trial here. This was one that we did up here at Battleford. So what we saw right through start all the way till after harvest was the plants were substantially ahead versus untreated. You could see that development in terms of the root mass and also the above ground plant material. This actually equated to showing that line in the field there from field view where you could see the treated portion on the left side of the screen and untreated was on the right. Even after harvest, you were able to see a difference in terms of the straw color between the two. And then this one ultimately ended up with a couple of bushel gain as well as lower protein and or higher protein and lower moisture content on it. So it was a very nice trial to see firsthand. And then going to the other end of the spectrum on this next trial that's going to come up, it was seeded at the tail end of May. So this was after about 10 inches of rain. Moisture and temperature conditions were absolutely fantastic at this point. So it wasn't as visually noticeable from the edge of the field, but once you pulled up the plants, you could definitely see the root mass, the plant material development, and then ultimately showed quite the gain at the tail end of the year. And this was in a totally different pH range. One was East Sask, this was more East Central Saskatchewan. So then moving ahead into the 2023 growing season. So this was down in Netherhill. It was a fairly dry season throughout with some odd sporadic rain here. What we saw when we were looking at the plants throughout the season was that the improved plant growth that Nick had shown earlier, and then ultimately showed a 4 bushel gain on this one. So it was a nice noticeable difference. And then along the stretch too, there was some additional trials, which we'll get to next here. So this was one over in Oyen. So if you're not familiar with Oyen this year, it was very dry. Um, you can see from that climate field view map up at the top end very clearly which side of the field was treated versus untreated. Now getting into that central photo, what I did there, what was trying to accomplish was looking at dry areas on both treated and untreated sides of the field. So just that bit of a difference in terms of that root mass early helped the plants pull up substantially more moisture. Now in the field, I couldn't tell that there was this much of a difference until I washed the roots and put them on the board, and that's where you could really see it jump out. Now in that bottom right-hand corner, that was more of a average part in the field where there was moisture, and you can see the improved plant material there. And then ultimately, again, this was along that highway stretch around Kindersley where it equated to a 4.5 bushel gain at the end of the year. And the farmer here had definitely mentioned he noticed it with the combines as he was driving across harvesting it this fall. Now, the neat thing with this product across the 2 years, two very different conditions across very different pH zones, temperatures, and just different environmental battles is the consistency of the product. You can see there's substantial wins on this, so it makes it an easy product to look to utilize. It definitely caught my interest as a farmer, looking at how consistent it is, plus how easy it is to actually add it into your operation. Now, the nice thing too with it in terms of ease of use, it's a liquid formulation. So it's very simple in terms of applying onto seed. You simply just mix it with your seed treatment. It has a fantastic compatibility here. So that tank mix timeline is actually 2 days. You can leave our LALRISE Start SC in the tank with any of these seed treatments before you apply it to seeds. So in case farming happens, it gives you a heck of a buffer there. And then once it's on seed, you've actually got 6 months to apply the product right now. And with that, we're currently looking to continue to expand that on-seed survivability. It's just in testing as we speak. So very easy to apply, very easy to use, and then application rate is next to nothing in terms of volume compared to your usual seed treatment. So it's a very high concentrate, simple to use product. So as I said, easy to use, very durable. as Nick mentioned, it has that wide scope and scale in terms of your plant benefits with your dual mode of phosphorus fixation, so leaps and bounds ahead of anything else in the marketplace. And that compatibility too with the stable formulation that we have makes it very easy to utilize. And then seeing that starter effect or that pop-up, especially when your plants are stressed and looking for that additional phosphorus early season, it's been a very nice product to see out in the field. And as you can see here too, it's registered across all cereals as well as chickpeas and corn, and readily available at any of your normal retails where you'd purchase crop input products from. So if you have any additional questions, I guess over and beyond or afterwards looking at the products, feel free to reach out to your local rep. Give myself or one of my teammates a call and we'll be more than happy to assist you here.
Thank you again for taking the time to join us. Any questions that haven't been answered, you can contact your local Lallemand rep, or you can also email us at support@lallemandplantcare.com, and we will be happy to answer your questions. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.